Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have been enjoying the episode so far of Life and Style virtual edition here on KTN. I'm Susan Joy. I'm going to be taking you through this conversation segment, and I'm very excited to invite and announce the guest that I'm going to be having today. I'm going to be talking to Valentine Njoroge. She is the co-founder and CEO of Africa's Pocket. Yes, Mofuko, like pockets, and we put Africa inside. So she'll tell us what that means and more about the company. Hi, Valentine. How are you?
Hi, Susan. It's so nice to be here. I've been waiting for this day.
You have been waiting for this day. So have we. I'm so happy that you're here as well.
Thank you so much for having me.
So today we are going to be discussing financial shocks and financial surprises. Obviously, in recent times, I can personally admit I have experienced many, like way more than I ordinarily would have by this time of the year if I was to compare it to 2019 or 2018, right? So you will be taking us through that. But before we get there, I want you to explain what Africa's Pocket is, and people can understand. What do you do as the CEO of Africa's Pocket?
Sounds good. I mean, people usually ask me, what does a CEO do? And I'm like, you're just like a highly acclaimed KYM. But
the truth, the actual truth.
You do everything and anything. But Africa's Pocket, we're a company that does personal finance education. So we teach you how to budget. We teach you how to think about your savings. We teach you how to invest. And we do this by creating online courses. So you can do them on your computer, on your phone, at your own pace. They just take you through the lessons. And then on top of that, we also create really interesting digital tools so that you're able to do all the hard math that comes with personal finance management on our platform without you having to even ever bring out a calculator. So as the CEO, my job is to say, okay, people are wondering about how to save during COVID. How do we create a course that covers that? How does it look? What words do we use? How do we put it out to market and that kind of thing? So that's my role. And that's the company that I run.
Sounds like a very easy job.
So they say.
Actually sounds quite difficult. And of course, with all of these courses, it obviously sounds like with finances, even as you think about it as a person, it's always about preparation. It's always about build up. It's always about working towards a particular goal. Now, with COVID-19, it was like all our goals were taken and just like thrown out like leaves into the air or thrown out of the door. I don't even know which metaphor I describe it with. Yes. But for you guys at the Africa's Pocket team, how have you guys been? And what has been one of the biggest changes you experienced as a company with COVID?
As a company, well, so first we started working from home like the Monday after the first case was found.
Okay.
And I really wanted to make sure that my team was safe. The way our business works, there's actually no reason to be in an office. So I said, let's just make this call ASAP. I think the other thing that we've done, like sort of changing our conversation from, invest to prepare. Because at this time, what we're facing is a time of uncertainty. You don't know what's going to happen, which means that making decisions is really difficult because you're working with several unknown factors. So for us, what we say is the best thing to do is to be prepared, like over-prepare. It's better to have a pile of cash at the end of 2020 and everything is okay, than to continue the way you are going and run out of money, for example.
Yeah.
So that's sort of how we've adapted. We're taking a more preparation approach to everything, even to our own business, so that you're not caught unawares. And when the opportunities do emerge, you're able to take advantage of them.
True. I am somebody who procrastinates with decision making. Like, forget even doing the work, even making the decision. I'm like, it can be pushed as far as humanly possible. That's better. So I can definitely relate when you say decision making when it's an unknown situation. There's no end game. I can't be able to see anything into the future for sure.
Yeah.
It's a lot more difficult. So with financial shocks and surprises, let's talk about the big word that everybody loves so much, and that is debt.
Yeah. Debt.
So there has been a massive, massive pileup of debt. So I can speak at least for individuals where due to COVID-19, there's been a lot of unemployment as well. So you have mobile money loans, people are probably piling them up. You've lost your job, your landlord is probably on you, your rent is spiking up. Exactly. If you still have your job, maybe with more people in your family not having an income, you're there with your salary advance that you've taken on that's just piling up and piling up and piling up. So for all the people watching us that are overwhelmed because they feel like they have no choice, what's your advice on where is the best place to start? I have now this debt, it's all piled up, I'm still piling up every day. Where's the best place to start when it comes to organizing my debt and starting to pay it back?
So what I would say is first identify what's good debt and what's bad debt.
Right.
So good debt helps you make income in the future. So that makes sense. It's like part of an investment.
Right.
Bad debt is for things you've already consumed. So you'll find that with a lot of mobile money loans, or you haven't paid your landlord, that's you've stayed in the house already. You owe for something that happened in the past. So start with those ones. Then the thing that I would say is arrange them from the biggest one to the smallest one. So just rank them,
right.
and then also understand the interest rates that each of them are earning. So the most expensive one to the least expensive one. So there are two ways to pay off debt efficiently. One is to either start with the smallest amount and pay it off. When you finish that amount, you put all the money into the next smallest amount, pay it off like that. So, or let me say that a bit differently. You start by paying the minimum payment on all of your debts. So all debts every month, there's an amount you have to pay.
Yes. Yeah? Yes.
Then now you put every extra money into the smallest one until it's finished. You take all of that money into the next biggest one until it's finished, like that.
Okay. So that's one way.
That's one way. It's called the debt snowball. It's like a snowball. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and eventually your debt is finished. Okay. So this method is really nice because it makes you feel good because you're able to tick off the debts as you're finishing them.
Yeah.
So from a psychological perspective, it feels really nice. Then the other way to pay off debt is to take the interest rates and arrange them from the most expensive one, so the one that has the highest interest rate, to the least expensive one. And you start with that highest one. So same strategy, you pay the minimum for all of them. And then with all the extra money you have, you put it into the one that's the most expensive, going down. So this method is more efficient. So if you use this method, you'll pay less interest over time. So it's good for people who care a lot about saving. It depends on your personality, right?
Yeah.
And then the thing I would say is, if you're finding yourself having to take debt, just cut down. Go to bare minimum basics. Don't spend to keep up with the Joneses. Yeah. Don't spend to keep up your lifestyle. You're in an emergency right now, so you need to cut back. As in, this is the time you eat your boshos. You know what I mean? And like you need to cut back. And then consider selling some stuff to get these big chunks of money that can help you pay off that debt. And it seems like it's a lot, but there's all these Facebook groups, there's OLX, there's all these platforms where you can sell your things, and people are right now, surprisingly, they're buying even things like your car. You can sell it.
Yes.
And that can help you just get in a better place, because if you get out of this we're going to be in a recession for a long time. And if you get out of debt, you'll be doing so much worse for so many years. So it's worth getting on top of your debt
right now. And I also want to highlight for everyone that was listening, when you were saying you need to order them in how expensive they are, I want to emphasize it's interest rate. So the higher the interest rate, the higher it is up on the list. And that's like,
exactly.
You will be surprised, guys, when you write that list down. It's your mobile money loans. Come on, it's 25 or 1,000, or the percentage of interest you pay back on those small amounts. They're the most expensive. It's wild. You will be very surprised. I know this because I did this activity with Valentine and I was shook. So now let's talk about the people who are on the other side of the coin. So now you have creditors who are also facing financial shocks they never would have expected before. So you are a landlord, or you're a chama member, guys owe you money, maybe it's your suppliers, or however it works. And there's a lot of people who are owed money. So now when it comes to following up payments during a pandemic, and you see you're also in a financial fix as a creditor, what's the best way to approach that? How would you advise somebody to go about it?
So this is something that my business has faced as a challenge for sure. And one of the things that we did that worked quite well for us is offering a discount if people pay earlier. So just a small discount.
I kind of wish you didn't even say that on the show. I wish I could take that and keep it for myself. Okay, that is so smart.
So that way, there's an incentive, right? Because you're creating, otherwise there's no reason for them to pay you. There's nothing that you can do, So that's, I think, one thing that's worked really well. And then also just, I think when you're speaking to the people who owe you money, it's important to help them see your situation and how they're affecting you by not paying on time. And a lot of, it's a human being at the end of the day, right? So if they'll understand, they'll do what they can to help you. But the truth is, it's unprecedented times, and a lot of your creditors will not pay you. And the good thing is that there's a lot of support that's coming from our banks and even our government as business owners to help alleviate sort of what's going on here. But this is where things like emergency funds become really important, because more often than not, you won't get the money. So, yeah.
That's true. More often than not, you'll just have to wait, like everybody, until your creditors can actually afford to pay back. And I like what you said before. You were saying we're in an emergency right now, and even now you have said an emergency fund is key, is important. So I want you to first explain what an emergency fund is. Yes, we know it's a fund for a runaway. I mean, what is this? A rainy day.
A rainy day.
But is there a financial definition you have that can help for our viewers create an emergency fund?
So, I mean, I wouldn't call it a definition, but I guess the principle that you could use to think about your emergency fund is what do you need to survive over the next 3 to 6 months to continue living, a good version of your life. It doesn't have to be the best version of it, but a good version of it. And, the methodology has been 3 to 6 months, but I think what COVID-19 is showing us is that maybe you need more, maybe you need a year, maybe you need, a little bit more than a year even. So the idea is just to calculate how much you spend on a monthly basis on your essential things. I think now we understand what is an essential good.
Essential. Oh yeah. There's no one who can know that word, what it means now. I don't know how to help you.
Exactly. So what do you need to survive? How much does it cost you every month? And then multiply that number by, let's aim for 6 months, and you put that money away. And that's the rainy day, right? And then the other thing that I usually like to think about in the emergency fund is your major assets. So if you have a car, you have a house, what are the big repair things that could happen that cost quite a bit of money, and how much should you put away for that on an annual or monthly basis?
Right.
So that's how I would define an emergency fund. But I think it's important to also be very careful about when you're talking about an emergency, what do you mean? Mm-hmm. Going to a road trip is not an emergency. Buying a wig is not an emergency.
Not an emergency, guys.
Losing your job is an emergency. Getting sick is an emergency. So those are the things you want to think about. How can you protect yourself in case you lose your income for a few months?
Yeah, I like that. And you mentioned after COVID will obviously be I don't even know why we say after COVID. My mom has started saying BC and AC before COVID and after COVID. So I think I'm getting on it as well. But anyway, we have talked about Kenyan spending. So do you actually think that this is the time to do the complete opposite? This is the time to cut on spending. But now if that's the case, then what happens with our Kenyan businesses that we're trying to help with our spending?
Yeah, to help. I think that this is a very personal thing. And I would say, if your finances are not in check, please focus on yourself first before you start thinking about the $70 billion Kenyan economy. It is not on your shoulders. It is not on your shoulders. It really isn't. Where you can afford it, I think it's important to support businesses, to support local businesses. There's actually a lot of people who are saving money during this time.
Yes.
So how can you take some of those savings and redirect them to people who are starting small businesses so that you can do your part? But truly, if you're in debt, it's not your job to help the economy, right? In terms of being conservative with spending, I would say yes, don't spend on unnecessary things. This is not the year to upgrade your car. This is not unless you have the excess cash, right? But this is not the year to make unexpected large purchases. You want to hang back a little bit and watch what's happening, and then make an informed decision. Because at the end of the day, like, I think now we're officially in a recession, because a recession is 2 consecutive quarters of negative economic growth.
Yes.
So I think we're getting there. If not in the next 2 months, we'll get there. And what that means is that we're getting into a time where it's going to be the best time to invest, because all the prices are going to be low. So what you want is that when you reach that rock bottom or just above, you have cash, right? So that you can invest.
Yeah.
So where you don't need to spend, don't. If you have the excess money, of course, put it back into the economy. But it's not your job to keep the economy moving.
Unfortunately, yes. If our president is watching this, that does not apply to you.
Not him.
Yeah. Minister of Finance, if you're a government body, a parastatal working, this does not apply to you. But for everybody else, you can relax.
And another way to think about it is when you already have things that you're spending on consistently. So like, you're buying food, you're not going to stop buying food. Think about where you're buying your food from. You could go to a big international supermarket, or you could go to your local grocery store. So you can also think about that. If you're concerned about sort of pulling your money back from the economy, you can be intentional about where you spend it.
Like that, that's true. This is the time to go back to Mama Boga, guys.
Exactly. Yeah.
We need each other. You need the lower prices, and she needs you because of COVID. So this is the time to definitely band together. Now, we've talked about preparedness and cutting back on your spending and really focusing on yourself and your financial needs right now. And I want to talk about the different places that people were at financially before COVID and now what has happened. So you have, I guess, what I want to call the zero income of 2020. So maybe you were straight out of uni, you are starting a job, maybe you're a casual worker, you're a freelance creative, maybe a wait staff of a restaurant. If you were young, or if you were early in the journey, back in 2020, especially if you work in those industries I've just listed, it's like, if your job requires a social gathering of more than 15 people, it's like, it was all gone. So what I want to know is, where does somebody start off when you feel like everything you've prepared for, all your qualifications, what you're doing has just been cancelled? Yeah, let me say cancelled by the year 2020.
I mean, that's a really good question and quite a tough sort of situation to be in. But what I always say is, in crisis, there's opportunity, right? So because you're young, it means that you're able to, be a sponge for information and be able to really adapt very, very quickly. Right. So I would say, look at what your talents are, right? So let's say you are a casual worker and now you're not able to get that consistent income. What is in the casual work that you used to do that you're good at, regardless of the situation? And how can you leverage that to make some income? So it could be something as simple as, now you'll run errands for people. People don't want to go to the supermarket. Maybe now you can go and make a flyer that says, we'll do shopping for you, and stick it on it or something. This is very off the top of my mind, but there's opportunities. It's not like now people are not doing anything at all. There are things that now, there are new needs that have emerged. And I think as a young person, as a person who is, in this, where they, you're not already, your expenses are not high, you're not relying on past sort of experiences, you really have an opportunity to make something of the situation. At Africa's Pocket, we have a resource that helps people figure out like good side hustles to do online and in this time. So we talk about all sorts of things, from doing online teaching of English to like I mentioned, doing an errand service or cooking food in your house and delivering it to people. There's so many opportunities. So what I would say is look at what your talents are. Think about what the problems people are facing now are, and then match the two. Because that's how you form an opportunity, right?
Okay. Now there is a course that you are doing at Africa's Pocket. Like when we talked about debt, we talked about you take them, you list them highest to lowest, then you list the insurance, expensive to least expensive, and then now you ask yourself which one will you pay first, and. But now on Africa's Pocket, you have a financial training course that you, the CEO Valentine, is taking people through. So as somebody who maybe is not looking forward to doing that list myself and managing those myself, do you want to tell us what exactly does this course that you're doing entails, and what are the perks? Are there perks of having the CEO teach me? Like, am I going to be financially 100 after that? Like, I don't need any financial advice ever afterwards.
Well, I will for sure not say that. These programs that we have are like having personal trainer, right? For fitness. You still have to eat right. You still have to go to the gym. What your trainer does is just help you be more efficient with this process. Mm-hmm. So they'll tell you, the way you're doing your sit-up is not good. Do it like this. Change your body like this.
Right.
So that's what our program does. And what we're really trying to do with this program is have a little bit more personalized attention to each person who takes the course. Mm-hmm. We really want our program to feel like you are empowered to do it yourself. So you don't need me for the rest of your life to tell you, invest in this, invest in that.
Right.
You know, what success is for me is at the end of it, you know how to decide mm-hmm. what investment, because I can't teach you about all the investments in the world. And then every day you're getting a new opportunity here, there, you know. Last month it was buy Zoom. Now you're being told, you know, maybe no, don't buy Zoom, you know, and you need to know how to differentiate from a good and a bad investment, regardless of what the investments available are. So that's what our coaching program does. We tell you what to do. We give you the foundation. So what the diet is, what the exercise part is. Mm-hmm. And my role is to make sure that you're doing it in the most efficient way for your life. Because part of what happens in investments is that, you know, my friend is doing this, so even me, I'm going to do it. But my circumstances are different. Maybe my friend is single and 21 and has no kids, and I'm 30 with 3 kids and I pay school fees. We can't do the same stuff.
Very, very different. Yeah. You can't take the same risks.
You can't, exactly. So that's what the program does. And I guess the perks are being able to think through some of the ideas you have in your head with a person who's in the same sort of country as you, who understands the landscape and all that good stuff. Because a lot of financial courses tend to be from America and Europe, and you know, they're telling you about things like a 401k, and you're like, what's that?
What is a 401k? Yeah, I once finally understood what a 401k was. So then I actually tried to calculate what mine would be.
Mm-hmm. And you're just like, no.
4 pluses, 3 minuses, and a few divides in. I was like, this does not make any sense to me. Let me move on. But I like that. Now let's talk about something that I have been battling with a little bit, and that is there a financial return and a financial risk that we should be looking at when it comes to lending out hand? Because during this time of COVID-19, every time I've talked to people, even on this show, even off the show, there's always a conversation of this is the time for us to come together. This is the time to have compassion. Maybe somebody doesn't have sanitizer and you have access. Excess is the time to share. Somebody doesn't have food, you have some. This is the time to share. But now the financial risk and the financial return. Do you think behavior of sharing and giving leads towards financial stability, or it is the downfall?
No, I think that giving should be a part of your financial plan, right? And there are some things that you have in your financial plan that don't necessarily give a financial return, but they give you an emotional return or something else, right? So it's just similar to, you know, there are people who really like doing their nails. They spend 4,000 on their nails. They spend 5,000 on their nails. There's no, like, it just feels nice, you know? And And that's okay, right? Like, that's why we work hard and we make money, so that you can build a life that feels good, that you're happy with. So for me, I think that this, like, the gratification that comes from giving and from sharing, at least for me, is really important. And so I wouldn't be too concerned about thinking about the financial return. The thing that I would do is budget well for it. So have a limit. So don't give so much that now you yourself, you're not able to meet your financial obligations.
Right.
And then also, I think that there's an opportunity to do more sustainable giving. So there's, donations where you're just giving money to somebody, but it's kind of like the saying, teach a man to fish or give a man a fish. So as we think about how to be more sustainable, we can think about, I've given you the sanitizer to solve your immediate problem, but then how can I make sure that you are able to provide for yourself going forward?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I usually advocate. Have, a portion of it for donations, but also be thinking about that long-term sustainability.
Long-term help. Yes.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Now I've seen we are almost at the end, but before we finish up, there is a very interesting conversation that was happening on a WhatsApp group that both of us were in. And when I thought about financial shocks and financial surprises, I was like, I think the surprise, I was very, very surprised. So for everybody watching, essentially what it is there's a slideshow that has been shared of some of the top performing startups in Kenya. And what you see when you open the slides of all the leaders of the startups in Kenya is majority of them are either Caucasian or South Asian or no, but essentially there was very few Africans on that list, if none at all. I think there was one or two. So what I wanted to ask is, when it comes to funding, when it comes to startups, obviously Africa's Pocket, a startup, what do you think is usually the cause, or in your own experience, is usually the cause that can tend for there to be such a big difference? I mean, we're here in Kenya, obviously majority of Kenyans are Africans, but then when you see the top startups in Kenya, majority of them are not Africans.
Yeah. And I think one thing to say is that, this was also discussed on that group, is that that list is selective. So it's definitely not comprehensive, but the is about, I think 90% of funding of Kenyan startups goes to white founders or non-Black African founders.
Right.
And that's a problem. And the reason is because the money comes from out there. So it's just, human nature. I'm a woman. If I'm investing, I'm more inclined to invest in other women.
Right.
So what needs to happen, in my opinion, is that more Kenyans need to start investing in startups. And therefore, the money will flow to Kenyans. But, the other side of the coin is, you hear this narrative all the time of, you give somebody money, they go and buy what, they buy what, they don't invest in the business. So there's also that, yeah. But I think that we're in a place where there's a emerging breed of Kenyan entrepreneurs who really want to make a difference and need the money to scale and become global. This is literally my life mission, is to make Africa's Pocket a global company.
Right.
And what that means is that we have to have more homegrown investors. And, it's good to see programs like Lions Den coming up. You're seeing it starting to change. The narrative is starting to change. But a huge majority of the investment funding that exists comes from the Western world, from the US, from Europe, and now from Asia, from China. So we need to start building a culture of investing in each other. And once that happens, I think you'll see more and more familiar faces in those slideshows that are going around. I mean, we do have to be grateful that at the end of the day, these guys are building businesses that help our local communities, but we have to ask the question, how much of the profits stay here?
True.
Yeah,
that's very true.
So,
I like that. For all of the Kenyans watching who are looking for investment opportunities, consider investing in a startup or somebody else's business, even if it's not necessarily a startup. It's not always about apartments and hotels and malls, guys. Anyway, I wouldn't know. I don't have the money. Maybe when I reach there, I'll know. So I'll talk to somebody with a lot of money and we'll figure it out. Valentine, thank you so much. Could you please give a final word to all our viewers For everybody that is watching and is really enlightened on how to deal with financial shocks and surprises, you have some advice to keep them going and pump them up?
Definitely. I think the one thing that I would say is it's not the end of the world. It's always possible to get out of a financial hole. And the best thing that you can do right now is be prepared. And one of the things you can do to be prepared is learn more about money. So check out Africa's Pocket, see what we have to offer, and get yourself educated, get yourself understanding what's happening, and prepare for the opportunities that are coming once this recession starts building up. So yeah, thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you, Valentine. I'm definitely going to be watching out. If I'd been watching out, there's some investment opportunities that were COVID related, but I missed. I could have been selling sanitizer even here on this show. Alas, I missed. But I will watch for the recession. Could you please share Africa's Pocket social media handles and your own social media handles as well, in case anybody has any follow-up questions?
Sure thing. So we are at Africa's Pocket on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And I am at val.njoroge with an underscore at the end on Instagram. And we are looking forward to getting your questions.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, Val.
Asante sana.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
That is Valentine Njoroge. Wow, guys, I was taking notes. So many notes. I hope you learned and listened as much as I did. I want to reiterate one of the things that Valentine shared for Surah's Cut today. There were so many financial gems, but I think the biggest one that hit me when she was talking is it's about preparing. Prepare. So even if you feel like you are in a massive financial hole right now, going underneath your covers or hiding underneath your hat and acting like it's not happening and hoping it will resolve itself in the future is not going to help. Sit down with your finances, sit down with your debts, list them like Valentine said, from best to worst in your opinion, or most expensive to least expensive, and just start paying it one by one. And like Valentine said, if you just go ticking them off, you even feel good. This is Conversations. I've been Susan Njoroge, your host. You can find me on social media on Instagram at Surah_Common, on Twitter at SNjoroge_, and on Facebook, my page is Surah Common. Now we are on to the artist segment and fun TikTok videos. Continue enjoying Life and Style Virtual Edition.